UFC returns to Singapore this Saturday, of course, in the morning here in the States, but obviously in prime time, I do believe, over there in Asia. Your main event will be in the featherweight division. It is kind of a mismatch, I think. It's Max Holloway versus the Korean Zombie. It just feels like a fight that it's going to be run away with by Max Holloway. Again, it just feels like a mismatch, but we're going to talk about that fight later. We've got 13 fights on this card. We'll see. I mean, in the co-main event, you got a good fight. It's a rematch between Anthony Smith and Ryan Spann. It's the rematch you did not know you wanted, and you probably still don't want it, but still, that's your co-main event. Also, a big-time fight in the flyweight division. You have got Blanchfield taking on Tyler Santos. If this is the first time watching, or for you guys watching the channel since, the setup change, well, here it is. Just a different setup. And folks, if you haven't yet, though, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more UFC here on the channel. Tomorrow, we will have our PFL predictions, and PFL turns around their next playoff card quickly. It's going to be on Wednesday, so it's right away for more PFL, but we'll get to that video and a prediction card tomorrow night. But of course, Korean Zombie, Max Holloway in the main event from Singapore. Let's get this 13-fight card started with our first fight, and it will be between Seungwoo Choi and Jarno Errens. It's an interesting fight because I think, you got plus 185 for Jarno Errens here, which isn't great. By the way, we went 10 for 12 in that last card in Boston, the Aljamain Sterling and Sean O'Malley card, the two fights that we did not get, one being Aljamain Sterling and the other one being Austin Hubbard losing. But other than that, we had a pretty successful night. Looking for more of that same success here this week. Shout out to FanDuel, though. They saved me on the Aljo pick. I bet either Aljo would win by submission or Sean O'Malley would win by knockout. I got covered on the O'Malley knockout. It's all right. But we've got Seungwoo Choi and Jarno Errens first. For Jarno Errens, he is a plus 185 dog in this fight. I feel like there's great value in this spot, honestly, because you look at Seungwoo Choi, this is a guy who has lost his last 3 fights, the likes of Alex Caceres, Josh Kalibau, and Michael Trezano. For Jarno Errens, he is 0-1 so far in the UFC, but it's just a loss to William Gomez by majority decision. After that, he had a fight scheduled against David Onama in January. Fight fell through, and now here he goes against Seungwoo Choi. And even for Errens, in that one fight against William Gomez, close fight, just got out wrestled in points in that fight, but now he gets Seungwoo Choi, and again, Seungwoo Choi is a guy who's 10-6 professionally. He got knocked down his last fight against Michael Trezano. He had the split decision loss to Joshua Kalibau, and he gets choked out by Alex Caceres before that. The last time the guys won a fight is November of 2021, or October of 2021. Anderson Silva fought more recently in the UFC than the last time Seungwoo Choi won, I do believe. Actually, no. Errens still fought in 2020. That's besides the point. Seungwoo Choi just hasn't won too many fights as of late. He, beat Yusuf Zalal to start off 2021. He beat Suman Mokhtarian before that. Again, though, we haven't seen much success out of Seungwoo Choi, and you're going to see a lot of Asian-born fighters on this card, and Seungwoo Choi is going to be the first of many. But I really like the spot for Jarno Errens here. Again, I know he came into the UFC, winning 1 out of his last 2, which was odd. He picked up a win in Brave. Before that, he'd lost to a guy at the time who was 9-3. The guy's 10-5 now. And the guy that, again, he lost to before making his way to the UFC. Errens lost the first time, but then again got the rematch, I do believe. But yeah, Errens beat him the first time and then lost to him the second time, and then since then that guy's lost 3 straight fights. But what I do like out of Jarno Errens here, I do like his all-around game. I think his ground game, I know even though he did lose his last fight by getting, just beat on the ground by William Gomez, I think that's a big pathway to victory for him in this fight. I don't think Seungwoo Choi's grappling is all that great. You look at Jarno Errens, I think it's a really, possibility for him to get the ground game working. And then on the feet as well, again, Seungwoo Choi has not been great. He had the double knockdown thing against Michael Trezano in the first round of their fight in MSG in 2022. He had the fight against Kalibau, where again, Kalibau drops him a couple times. He does drop Alex Caceres and looks like he's got Caceres dead to right in 2021, but then again, Caceres gets back up and takes his back and submits him in the second round. And we're going to see Caceres later on in this card. Again, I just think overall, I think Jarno Errens, the pathway to victory is there for him. I think he's the better fighter, and I think Jarno Errens is going to capitalize on a guy who's on a 3-fight losing streak, and at plus money, I like the look. Plus 185 for Jarno Errens. I see people complain at times that I don't pick enough underdogs. I'm not picking Jarno Errens just because he is an underdog. I do truly think he's going to win the fight. Most of my predictions, and actually all of my predictions, I just pick on who I think is going to win the fight. I don't really look at betting odds until after I actually pick the fight. In this one, though, we are going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Jarno Errens to pick up the win. You're probably going to see this one go the distance either way. I think Jarno Errens gets the job done, though. I think the Netherlands' own Jarno Errens is going to win this fight by unanimous decision. Okay, our next fight is Liang taking on JJ Aldrich. You got a fighter here in JJ Aldrich who is a minus 600 favorite in this fight for good reason. I mean, I feel like it's a really easy spot for her here. She is coming off 2 straight losses, but those fights are Erin Blanchfield and Ariane Lipski. Now, the Lipski loss, okay, maybe isn't the greatest loss. Lipski's a fighter who's traded wins and losses in the UFC. She is 5-5, but she is coming off 2 straight wins, and she has won 3 of her last 4 fights, has the former KSW champion in Ariane Lipski. And again, for JJ Aldrich, she's been a fighter that we've picked before here on the channel, just because even in the fight that she, I believe, was an underdog, she closed as an underdog against Jillian Robertson, which was her last win in March of 2022. She wins the fight by unanimous decision. JJ Aldrich is just all around a decent fighter. She's not going to wow you with her talents. Let's just be honest. She's not going to, but she comes in there with a decent boxing game. She can get the fight on the ground if she wants it to, but JJ Aldrich, again, an all-around just solid fighter. And Liang, I don't know what we're going to get out of her. She's 0-2 in the UFC. I really like the spot that they could have given her against Brogan Walker, because Brogan Walker is another entry-level UFC fighter that they have on roster, obviously, on the Ultimate Fighter. She's 0-2 now in the promotion. I don't think Brogan Walker is going to stick around in the UFC any longer. And, Juliana Miller is not very good from that Ultimate Fighter show as well. They really didn't get anything up the women's weight class on that Ultimate Fighter season. Caitlin Neal just lost in the PFL. Helen Peralta lost in the PFL. Like everyone they had on that women's roster for that Ultimate Fighter season really has not done anything. But for Liang Na, again, losing her first 2 fights in the UFC. It was kind of a thing before her UFC career where she fought a bunch of fighters in WLF wars and that's the thing with the Chinese regional promotions. There's just going to be no big town over there. She fought Maria Ogapova before her UFC run, Juliana Velasquez in Bellator, and Lilia Shakarova, who Shakarova had 1 fight in the UFC, lost to Lauren Murphy, and has not been seen from since. But again, Liang Na really hadn't beaten anyone before the UFC. She comes into the UFC after beating a fighter who was 0-0. She loses to Ariane Carnelosi, the first fight back out of the pandemic in Jacksonville, and then she loses to Silvana Gomez-Juarez in her last fight. She gets knocked down the first round. That was in Singapore back in 2022 in the summer. So it's been over a year since Liang Na has fought. She has not looked that impressive in either of those fights. She came out swinging against Carnelosi. She landed a couple takedowns, but really couldn't do much with it. Again, this is a fight we said in the open. JJ Aldrich, it seems like the easy pick here. It's because she is. This is nothing but a parlay piece that JJ Aldrich is going to come out there and she is going to dominate. I don't think this fight's competitive at all. You might get a slight odds boost on JJ Aldrich by decision because I don't think she's able to get a finish here. Despite Liang Na's 2 losses by finish so far in the UFC, JJ Aldrich has not gone out there and gotten a finish so far in the UFC. Gomez-Juarez, you understand the knockout on that one. Gomez-Juarez is a really good striker. Ariane Carnelosi, it was more of Liang Na tiring out. I think Aldrich is going to beat her down here, and I think JJ Aldrich is going to pick up the victory. I like her to win this fight by unanimous decision. Our next fight will be a fight between Billy Goff and Yusaku Kinoshita in the welterweight division. For Kinoshita, 0-1 in the UFC, younger fighter, I believe 22 years of age, from Osaka, Japan. 0-1 in the UFC, with his first fight being a loss to Adam Fugit. He will get Billy Goff in this fight. Goff's a guy who's 8-2 professionally, has not fought in the UFC just yet. Was booked against Themba Gorimbo earlier this year. Fight never happened. And Goff, again, coming off the contender. He won a fight by first round knockout. He got dropped earlier in the fight, but then eventually knocked out his opponent. That was in August of 2022, so it's been a year since Goff has been in there, and now he gets a spot here against Yusaku Kinoshita. You look at the odds, -150 about for Kinoshita, and then coming back at you, +125 for Billy Goff. Goff's a guy who's fought in various promotions in the USA. He was the former CES welterweight champion. He won the vacant championship, then defended it once, then went on to the Contender Series. He has some fights under the Cage Titans banner as well, and had a fight over in Bellator back in 2022 as a card main evented over in Connecticut with Alima Lay McFarlane. That's where she lost her championship to Juliana Velasquez. But Billy Goff's a guy who's going to come in there and he's going to strike with you. 6 wins by knockout so far in his professional career. He's only got 8 wins in total, but 6 of them are by knockout. He has 1 knockout loss. It's all the way back in 2019. It was a doctor stoppage. He loses to a guy who actually, was 0-1 at the time in Jonathan Pico. Pico beats him in 2019, and this, again, fighter who was now 1-1 after beating Billy Goff has not fought since then. But Goff, again, 6 knockout wins. He takes on a guy in Kinoshita who's more of the same, really. Another guy who is relatively unexperienced, 8 professional fights for him, and of course for Goff, he's only got 10. So 2 younger guys in their career. Obviously, Yusaku's only 22 years old, but again, the UFC run so far has been 1 loss, and it was to Adam Fugit in that fight. Fugit just has his way on the ground, and then that fight was not competitive. I believe I bet the under on that fight. It was on the Louis Spivak card back when I was betting on Prize Picks. That was not great. Anyways, for Fugit in that fight, he takes down Kinoshita, and he really just dominates him down on the ground. He's gone down for 3 minutes. The fight lasts for 4, and eventually it's a TKO finish for Adam Fugit down there. Now, Billy Goff is not a world-renowned grappler either. But again, Billy Goff's a guy who did show some takedowns in the Contender Series fight. He landed 2 of them, shot for 4. I would just feel better about Billy Goff getting the job done on the ground than what Kinoshita's got. I know Kinoshita won the Contender Series back in 2022, won a fight by knockout against Jose Henrique Silva. He knocks him out in the third round, but I think all around Billy Goff's the better fighter, and Billy Goff is another underdog that I'm going to be picking on this card, just because, again, I think Goff's a better fighter. I think you're going to see both these guys trade on the feet. I think if you need to see it, similar to what, Gregory Rodriguez did to Dennis Tululin just a couple nights ago or just last night in Boston, I think it's going to be kind of a similar result. I think Billy Goff either gets it done on the feet, or if he needs to, he takes down Kinoshita and just wins by ground and pound. So I think this fight's not going to last very long. I'm going to go with the underdog here, Billy Goff, to win this fight. I like him to take this fight by first round TKO to improve to 1-0 in the UFC. We now move on to a fight here with the plus 225 dog in Song Ki-nan. He'll be taking on Rolando Bedoya in this fight, or Ronaldo Bedoya. For Bedoya, this is a guy who is 0-1 in the UFC, dropping his first fight in the promotion to Chaos Williams. This is a fight that he was a plus 300 underdog in, but he made a decent account of himself in that fight, just losing it barely by split decision. He now gets Song Ki-nan, a guy who has lost back-to-back fights, a guy who did knock down Ian Gary in his last fight. Now for Ian Gary, again, this is a guy who is just rising in the 170-pound weight class, obviously just beating Neil Magny, and the sky's the real limit, I think, for Ian Gary out there. But for Song Ki-nan, again, it has that fight against Gary. Both those guys trade on the feet. Obviously, Ian Gary wins every single round in that fight, I would say. Or actually, no, I think Song Ki-nan, no. Give Song Ki-nan the first round, and the next two give to Ian Gary. I mean, it was really the third round where Gary just takes over in that fight. 70-16 is a significant strike count in favor of Ian Gary. The second round, again, is all Ian Gary as well. That was at UFC 285, Jones and Sidogan, the main event before that card. Before that, for Song Ki-nan, losing a fight to Max Payne Griffin, where he gets knocked out in the first round. I mean, the last time the guys won a fight was pre-pandemic. That was back in 2020. It's been a very long time for Song Ki-nan, and that's why I think there's a lot of money going on Bedoya in this fight, even though Bedoya is a guy who, again, 0-1 in the UFC, 14-2. I would say more proven outside the UFC, though. Fights at FFC, which is a promotion over in Lima, Peru, or I think based in Lima, Peru. Bedoya, again, had a real back-and-forth fight against Chaos Williams. You can definitely make the case he beats Chaos Williams in that fight. I mean, he definitely outstrikes him in the third. The second, you can probably give it to him as well. The first, you can probably give it to him. I mean, it's a razor-close fight. The one round you can say a guy won was Bedoya winning the third round, but the first two, again, just really close rounds between him and Chaos Williams. A good fight on the undercard over there in the Prudential Center in New Jersey between Aljamain Sterling and Henry Cejudo in the main event. I think it's the clear pick. You're going to take Bedoya to win this fight. I like his striking game a lot more than Song Ki-nan. I've seen Ki-nan get outstruck in his last couple of fights. Yes, he will always have the power. That will be there for him. But again, it's a kill or be killed mindset for Song Ki-nan. I think it's going to be a war on the feet. I don't actually think Bedoya is going to get a finish. I think he's going to win this fight by decision. But again, he's minus 275 for a reason. I think he's the way better fighter in this one. I think he's got way better striking skills. Again, Song Ki-nan is coming off 2 straight losses, and the guy has not won a fight since that win over Callan Potter back in February of 2020. It's been a very long time. I think it makes sense that you go with Bedoya to win this fight. We're going to take the Peruvian fighter to win this fight by unanimous decision. Next up, a banger of a fight in the middleweight division. We have got Njokuani taking on Michal Oleksiejczuk. Just a good fight. Just a really good fight. I mean, people are pretty split on this pick. Oleksiejczuk coming off that loss to Caio Borralho, but again, Caio Borralho, that dude is dominant as well. You've seen, he's a guy, 4-0 in the UFC. He's going to be getting a really tough fight in November that we'll get to when that card does approach. But yeah, Oleksiejczuk, 6-4 in the UFC, really turned his career around after dropping back-to-back fights to Ovince St. Preux and Jimmy Crute, won back-to-back fights against Modestas Bukauskas and Shamil Gamzatov, dropped one to Dustin Jacoby, then beat Sam Alvey, which is expected, but then knocked out Cody Brundage, and then again just ran to the wrong guy. Caio Borralho is a guy who no one really wants to talk about as being a up-and-comer in the weight class just because he just doesn't have the most entertaining style, but Caio Borralho, really good fighter, who the UFC loves to give co-main event spots to, especially in the UFC Apex. That's where the Michal Oleksiejczuk fight was at. But you got a guy in Njokuani fighting here, and Njokuani has lost his last 2 fights as well. Well, I guess Oleksiejczuk won before the fight against Caio Borralho, but that's besides the point. Njokuani dropping back-to-back fights. He comes into the UFC. I mean, Njokuani was a guy like George Hardwick, right? Hardwick on the Contender Series. You thought, Njokuani, well, more than Hardwick, But again, Njokuani was a clear guy the UFC probably should have just signed regardless of the Contender Series or not. But for George Hardwick, man, that guy, again, comes in the Contender, loses in the main event. Doesn't get the contract to the UFC. But anyways, back to Njokuani, wins in the Contender Series pretty decisively, then beats Marc-Andre Bedoya, knocks him out in 16 seconds in his UFC debut, then it finishes Dusko Todorovic, but then drops one to get Gregory Rodriguez in a crazy fight in September of 2022, wins Fight of the Night, and then drops his next fight to Albert Duraev, and honestly, a pretty boring fight over in San Antonio. But again, Duraev gets the better of Njokuani in that fight. So now you get Chidi and Michal Oleksiejczuk. Again, someone's probably going to get knocked out in this fight. I mean, Oleksiejczuk, 13 wins by knockout. He does have 4 losses by submission, but Njokuani is likely not going to be that guy that's going to take him down. Njokuani, again, 3 submission losses in his own right. Both these guys like to keep the fight on the feet. Both these guys like to strike. It makes for a very entertaining stylistic matchup because someone's probably going out and someone's probably going to hit the canvas. Again, you got Njokuani right now at approximately plus 100. You got the favorite of Michal Oleksiejczuk, the Polish fighter, at minus 120. Again, both these guys, really good strikers, a lot of power on both sides of the cage in this fight. I think it makes for, again, a really good fight. I think I would give the slight striking advantage to Michal Oleksiejczuk. I think he's got more pop in his shots. However, Njokuani, I think, is a much quicker striker. I think he's got more skills, obviously, with his all-around Muay Thai game. It's a really tough fight to pick. It really is. Because, again, you saw the damage that Njokuani was able to do in Bellator, obviously. He went 5-3 over there, but had some really close fights with some guys and fought some of the best guys Bellator had to offer, and Melvin Gillard. But, I mean, beat Andre Fiallo over there, had a loss to John Salter, but just really, again, had tough fights over in Bellator. Went to LFA, picked up one over there, came to the Contender Series, won, came to the UFC, won. Njokuani is the real deal, but, again, Michal Oleksiejczuk is the real deal as well. Both these guys are good strikers, but I am going to go with another underdog. I'm going to take Chidi Njokuani to win this fight. I like Njokuani to go out there and pick up a knockout win in the second round. Again, I think this is fireworks on the prelims. It's a really good fight. And honestly, there are some hidden fights in this card that are going to be really good, and this is one of them. I think Chidi Njokuani goes out there and he will beat Michal Oleksiejczuk. I like him to take this fight by second round TKO. And if I were both these guys are probably going to get hit a lot, it's just someone's eventually going to get finished, and I think that guy will be Michal Oleksiejczuk in this fight. Next up, we have got one in the bantamweight division. We have got a fight that I believe has gone up the card as we have, over the last couple of days. I think it's Toshiomi Kazama taking on Garrett Armfield. For Kazama, this will be the first fight for him in the second fight in the UFC for him. He lost a fight to Renia Nakamura in his first fight, I believe. Yeah, Nakamura's on this fight as well. You're going to see him against Fernie Garcia in about 3 fights. But you get Kazama and Garrett Armfield. You got the Missouri State fighter, Missouri State wrestler, and Garrett Armfield coming back out here. 0-1 in the UFC, got a call on super short notice to go take on David Onama in his first fight in the UFC, and Armfield was a plus 550 underdog in that fight. He loses, he gets submitted in the second round, but again, that was kind of expected out of that fight. Now he gets a full camp. He was booked against Christian Rodriguez later on in 2020, but Armfield had to pull out the fight due to a staph infection, and he was supposed to fight Jose Johnson earlier this year. Johnson had to pull out the fight. Now Armfield finally gets the call to go fight here in Asia, in Singapore, against Toshiomi Kazama. Armfield's pretty good. This is a guy who will have pop on his strikes, especially for being one of the smaller fighters. Especially at 135, he's only 5'6", but Armfield will have power. This guy's a really strong 135-pounder, especially for the size. He's taking on a guy here in Kazama who's also 26 years old, fighting out of Japan. Lost his first fight in the UFC in, I believe it was the finals of the Road to FC, I think, because he was the guy, I believe, in Kazama who wins his first fight. Then his next one gets canceled because his opponent missed weight, so Kazama immediately moved on to the next round. But then he lost to Nakamura. Nakamura knocked him out in 33 seconds. And again, Kazama was a guy who was a plus 350 dog in that fight. Nakamura, we're going to talk about earlier. Again, I can talk a lot about Nakamura and the success I think that the UFC is setting him up for. But Nakamura, undefeated at the time, still undefeated, knocks out Kazama in the first round. And now you get Kazama and Garrett Armfield. Armfield's going to bring it to him on the feet as well. 5 knockout wins for Armfield in his career. He's got the wrestling skills as well, but his jiu-jitsu isn't 100% great either. For Kazama, this is a guy who will probably look to take the fight down to the ground. I mean, you saw in his one fight on road to FC, road to the UFC. Really won the fight based off his takedown in the first round, and the second round was the takedown as well as a competitive second. I think the fight was 2-1 for Kazama. I think he wins the first 2 rounds. I think he does actually go drop the third round. But for Kazama, again, he wins the first one with his wrestling. The second round, close fight in the feet, but he gets the job done with his, his ability to get the fight down for the limited amount of time that he was able to get it down in the third round. I don't know. He kind of gets out-grappled in that third round. It's a close fight. It's, you can make the case, honestly, for 30-27. Kazama, I think there's a possibility that his opponent wins the third round. But again, Kazama he'll go in there and he will look to wrestle Garrett Armfield, because Garrett Armfield, that's where he has struggled in the past. His last two losses are by submission. David Onama submitted him in 2022, and then Mateo Vogel submitted him back by rear naked choke in 2021 CFFC. And there's other losses against a guy though, and Ronnie Lawrence, who there's really no shame in losing to Lawrence. Again, he had the no contest in his last fight against Dan Argueta, but lost to Jakub Karamov before that. But Karamov is a monster in there, a guy who definitely should not have been cut by the UFC, which is really weird that Karamov's done the promotion. I don't know why, PFL hasn't signed the guy yet. But anyways, that's what the PFL is doing right now, and it's working. Hey, Impa Kasanganay is in the championship fight. It's a guy that the UFC prematurely released as well, kind of like Jakub Karamov, a guy who fought in ex-MMA, who made his way to the PFL. I mean, again, I can talk a lot about Impa Kasanganay and the story that guy's had, and he's one fight away from becoming a world champion and $1 million richer against Josh Silveira. It's a tremendous opportunity for him. I would make the case I think he's going to beat Josh Silveira when that fight eventually happens in November. But Kazama is going to test Garrett Armfield. He's going to test him with the wrestling. Kazama has been finished before. He will, twice in his last, I believe, 2 or 3 fights, he has been knocked out. His only 2 losses are both by knockout. So Garrett Armfield's going to have the advantage there. On the ground again, I think it will be Kazama. So basically, this fight is dependent on if Garrett Armfield can keep it standing or if Toshiomi Kazama can take him down. I'm going to go with the favorite. I'm going to take the American fighter fighting out of Kill Cliff FC. I'm going to take Garrett Armfield to win. I'm going to take him by decision. I think Armfield, again, is able to keep the fight standing. I think he is able to get back up if Kazama does find success with his wrestling. And I think Garrett Armfield's able to stay out the way of submissions. But again, I will emphasize this. This is the submission fighter in Toshiomi Kazama, the jiu-jitsu player, taking on the striker in Garrett Armfield. Armfield's wrestling isn't horrible, but once he gets down to the ground, he is not very good. I think Garrett Armfield does win, though. I'm going to take Armfield to pick up his first win in the UFC. He will beat Toshiomi Kazama by unanimous decision. Okay, we have got a fight in the heavyweight division. We have got Waldo Cortes-Acosta, who has been really active after getting signed to the UFC, taking on a guy, Lucas Brzeski. You've got Cortes-Acosta, who will be the favorite coming in this fight at minus 290, taking on Brzeski again, who's coming at you at plus 235. Brzeski 0-2 in the UFC, likely fighting for his UFC contract. I think we can kind of cement Lucas Brzeski as a low-level heavyweight. The rotation of these guys who aren't very good in the UFC's heavyweight division. I'm looking at guys like Josh Parisian. Roque Martinez isn't there anymore, but his name rings a bell. I hate to say it, Andrei Arlovsky's in that ranks now. Dontel Mays is kind of maybe progressing up the list. Jamal Pogues, I would say, is in that category now. Parker Porter, kind of. It's just a bunch of guys who aren't very good in the heavyweight division. I feel like Lucas Brzeski is kind of one of those guys as well, even though he has not fought one of those establishment low-level heavyweight guys the UFC keeps around, like a Josh Parisian, like a Parker Porter. Hell, even Arlovsky, who for the longest time was just beating a lot of these bad guys in the heavyweight division. But Brzeski's 0-2. He lost his last fight on that fight card with Jan and Merab Dvalishvili main eventing. He just got dominated on the mat. I mean, that was all Carl Williams going in there, grappling him, knocking him down. I mean, it was a dominant performance for Carl Williams in that one. And then Brzeski's first fight in the UFC. Honestly, though, I think you can make the case he wins. Fighting against Marcin Budaj. Budaj's undefeated in the UFC. He's, 3-0, 4-0 now in the promotion. Budaj's likely looking at a top 15 name. He beat Josh Parisian 2 weeks ago, or last week. Daniel Cormier asked him for a name. Budaj was, kind of ready for the top 15, kind of not. I would say he probably needs one more fight outside the top 15. Oh, Jake Collier's another guy who's a low-level heavyweight. But Budaj potentially loses that fight to Brzeski. You look at the stats, you go back and you watch that fight, it's kind of a robbery. Brzeski kind of beats him every single round, if you're being honest. Maybe you can go damage-wise, Budaj does more, but really it's just, you think Lucas Brzeski wins that fight. And now here he is. He's 0-2 in the UFC, fighting for his contract against Waldo Cortes-Acosta, a guy who is 2-1 in the promotion, who has beat low-level heavyweights. There's another one, Jared Vandera, and another one, Chase Sherman. Vandera no longer in the UFC. Sherman, I believe, has been cut. I think, yeah, he's going to do boxing after he lost to Carl Williams in his last fight. Cortes-Acosta had a fight where he lost to Marcos Rodrigo de Lima. Obviously, you just saw de Lima get knocked out by Derek Lewis via flying knee and then ground and pound. And de Lima, last we heard of the guy, he was having trouble eating because his teeth were all messed up, that sucks. But again, Cortes-Acosta just kind of got outclassed by de Lima. But really was competitive in that fight. I mean, I think when you go round by round scoring basis, maybe, yeah, you do give the fight to De Lima, obviously, because the first round, De Lima outstrikes Cortes-Acosta, and in the second round, De Lima out-grapples him and out-wrestles him. Now, the third round, though, is all Waldo Cortes-Acosta. I mean, he outstrikes De Lima 43-17 in that fight. He really dominates the fight stand-up-wise, and he had more left in the tank than De Lima had. And again, I'm not saying a fight between De Lima and Waldo Cortes-Acosta or either of these guys will ever be in a UFC main event, but if it was, Cortes-Acosta definitely had a lot more left in the tank than what De Lima had. Now, again, Cortes-Acosta, a very active guy, former baseball player over in the Dominican Republic, nicknamed Salsa Boy, 31 years old. Saw him in Bellator and in LFA before he eventually got the shot into the Contender Series. Again, he was undefeated until he took on De Lima. This fight against Lucas Brzeski feels like a fight, though, he can, get back on the winning track. I think he is definitely the better striker. I think all around the game out of Cortes-Acosta should, just the striking game as a whole should be better. The UFC loves to say, and the commentators love to say, when, Cortes-Acosta goes out there and just starts throwing away bombs, they like to say, oh, he's throwing fastballs. Like, it's stupid stuff. But, I think he is a better striker than Lucas Brzeski. On the ground, both these guys aren't that great. Cortes-Acosta does not really grapple. Lucas Brzeski does not really grapple. I don't think you're going to see this fight hit the mat, so I think you are going to see, and I hate to say this, and when the UFC and when any MMA analyst, for the most part, 99% of the time, when they say a fight's going to be a technical fight, it's probably going to be boring. This fight, I think, will not be the most entertaining fight because I think Waldo Cortes-Acosta is just going to break Lucas Brzeski in this fight. I just think he will. I think he's going to just keep his range, throw out his jab. I think it's going to be a pretty good performance, but I think the Dominican Republic zone, now training out of Phoenix, Arizona, Waldo Cortes-Acosta gets back on the winning ways. He's going to beat Lucas Brzeski, and he will get it done by unanimous decision. Our next fight, we will stay in the heavyweight division for another low-level heavyweight fighter in Parker Porter, and he'll be taking on Junior Tafa. Very surprised Tafa is the favorite in this fight. This fight will start off the main card at 8 o'clock in the morning Eastern time, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Junior Tafa, obviously the brother, I'm pretty sure, of Justin Tafa, who Parker Porter has a knockout loss to. I am surprised that Tafa is the favorite in this fight. I am surprised Parker Porter is a pretty heavy underdog on Tapology as well, because I really didn't see it out of Junior Tafa in this fight against Mo Usman. Now, again, stylistically, that's a very tough matchup, though, for him. It just is, because Mo Usman is a wrestler. He's going to go in there. He's going to try to grapple guys. And Muhammad Usman really didn't do anything striking-wise, but landed 2 takedowns after dropping the first round because he got outstruck. Well, actually, no. I think probably give the first round to Usman, I think. I don't know. Junior Tafa just wasn't able to do anything because he got out-wrestled in that fight. Now, you can take that a couple ways. You can say either that's Mo Usman, and Mo Usman is a really good wrestler, and there's no shame in losing that fight because of the great wrestling game Muhammad Usman has got, or is that Junior Tafa is just not equipped to wrestle guys because he is primarily a boxer, fighting out of Australia, originally from New Zealand. I'm surprised they didn't get him on that card in Australia that I believe Justin Tafa's on. Yeah, he's fighting Austin Lane again. The rematch for their fight in Jacksonville. I like how Dana White hyped that fight up too when he was announcing the card with, we've got Strickland Adesanya, we've got Tuivasa Volkov, and then we have Justin Tafa and Austin Lane. I don't know. That card's not very good. It's in 2 weeks. It's not a good pay-per-view card. It's really not. Blood Diamond's getting another shot in that card. Anyways, for Junior Tafa, he's here on this card. Parker Porter's not very good, but his last fight against Braxton Smith, all right, so he took on a guy in Smith who was not good. Braxton Smith was not very good. He came out of that fight 5-1. Obviously, I believe the UFC is probably going to give him another shot, but I think Braxton Smith is really in that low-level heavyweight category. He beats Braxton Smith okay. He drops a fight where he gets knocked out against Justin Tafa in the first round. He drops one to Jaitan Almeida, but that's going to happen to you. Almeida's in the top 10 now and likely on his way to a title fight, I think, very soon after he, obliterates Curtis Blades. I just think Almeida's that good, and I think an eventual Jaitan Almeida versus Tom Aspinall fight is crazy. I mean, you got Almeida, Aspinall, and Pavlovich in the top 3, I think, for the future of this weight class. And if John Jones sticks around, he probably beats all 3 of them. Anyways, for Porter, he comes into the UFC, gets knocked out by a guy, Chris Daukaus, who's now out of the UFC after another knockout loss. When Daukaus went down to 205, he got knocked out by Killer Roundtree Jr., and he was just the same guy at light heavyweight, but just, there's a meme out there, it was just like a SpongeBob meme of Chris Daukaus. He just looked like the same guy, just down 40 pounds, don't know how he made it, didn't really lose any fat, there he was. But yeah, Porter lost to Daukaus, beats Josh Parisian, goes on a 3-fight winning streak because beat Parisian, beats Chase Sherman, beats Alain Padot. Now, all 3 of those guys are low-level heavyweights. They are bad heavyweights. I don't think any of them are in the UFC anymore. I don't know if Parisian might still be around. I know he just lost to Budai. They'll probably keep Parisian around. Probably, but he lost to Jamal Pogues. I don't know. Anyways, Porter beats those guys, drops one to Almeida, drops one to Tafa, beats Braxton Smith. So he's now, 4-3 in the UFC, does have a winning record. Parker Porter can wrestle, though. He can. He did that against Elan Badeau. Badeau's a guy who is again, primary kickboxer, and he went in there and he just grappled him. Now, I'm going to go with Junior Tafa here. I will go with the favorite just because I think the Tafas have Porter figured out. I think Porter's not able to take him down, and I'm willing to say that the Usman Junior Tafa fight was just Muhammad Usman being a really good wrestler. I'm willing to say that's how that fight was. There's just that Usman's really good wrestling wise, and Muhammad Usman's going to do that to a lot of guys in the weight class. And he knocked out Zach Pounga in their fight for the Ultimate Fighter. I'm willing to say that's what Muhammad Usman does, and I'm willing to put that aside because I think Junior Tafa, again, is able to keep this fight on the feet. I think he is able to keep Porter up, and I think he is able to just knock him out. I think it's going to be a first-round knockout victory for Junior Tafa. I don't think Porter's able to get it down. I think Porter on the feet isn't very good. He's more of a guy at heavyweight who's not going to get a knockout. He's going to go out there and he is going to win by decision. He's going to outpoint you on the feet. He is I wouldn't say a younger Andrei Arlovsky because Parker Porter's 38 years old fighting out of Connecticut. I think Junior Tafa wins. I think he wins it by first-round knockout. It's an interesting fight in the main card. It's a fight that the UFC's hoping results in that big first-round knockout for Junior Tafa because they're looking for that big performance to kick off the main card to get people awake at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to take Junior Tafa to win by first-round knockout, and you go from that fight into maybe the best fight on this card, like competitive-wise, Aaron Blanchfield, Tyler Santos, because this fight, again, Max Holloway, Korean Zombie's a big fight. It's a legacy fight, but this fight really means something for the women's flyweight division because Tyler Santos is a fighter who, had Valentina Shevchenko almost beat in their fight in Singapore in 2022. She returns to Singapore now in a fight against Erin Blanchfield, maybe the best prospect in all of women's MMA right now. I mean, 5-0 is Erin Blanchfield. Blanchfield's good. Blanchfield is really good at -150. Now, the Jessica Andrade fight has not aged incredibly well just because Andrade just keeps on losing. Jessica Andrade has lost to Erin Blanchfield. She got knocked out by Yan Zhanan. She got submitted by Tatiana Suarez, and now it seems like she's going to be booked against Mackenzie Dern next. I think that's the next fight for Jessica Andrade. But, she won a 3-fight winning streak. She beat Calvillo, she beat Lemos, she beat Lauren Murphy, and then, again, she loses the next 3. But Erin Blanchfield was the start of the losing streak for Jessica Andrade, and I was like, all right, well, that's how good Erin Blanchfield is, right? She went in there, she made it look easy against Jessica Andrade. She went in there and she traded with Jessica Andrade, and she probably won the first round by outstriking Jessica Andrade and eventually took her down in the second and submitted her, right? For Blanchfield, again, and at the time it was really great, but okay, well, since then Andrade has been knocked out by Yan Zhanan and then arguably outstruck by Tatiana Suarez in the first round, then submitted by Tatiana Suarez in the second round. I mean, it's not taking anything away from Erin Blanchfield because everyone's riding the highs, I guess, of Tatiana Suarez as well. But, it's just, what do we have here in this fight between Blanchfield and Andrade at this point? But it's not taking away anything from Erin Blanchfield. Again, undefeated so far in the UFC, 5-0, professional record of 11-1. The one loss being to Tracy Cortes back in 2019, and Cortes is another fighter who is 4-0 in the UFC, who I think should be getting a little bit more hype. She just doesn't win her fights as impressively as Erin Blanchfield, but she will be taking on Jasmine Jazavidius in I think a month on the UFC Mexican Independence Day card. But Blanchfield's good. Blanchfield's good. She's a really good grappler. She's really good on the ground. She can get it done on the feet as well, but she takes on Tyler Santos, who's 19-2, 4-2 in the UFC, obviously reached the title fight after winning 4 fights in a row over Molly McCann, Julian Robertson, Roxanne Modafferi, and Joanne Wood. They give her Valentina. She fights Valentina really close, but loses by split decision. Her first fight in the UFC. This is why I was always down on Tyler Santos, because she loses to Mara Barella back in 2019. That wasn't great. But Santos since then has been very good. Her striking game's great. She's got a lot of power on the feet. She's got really good takedown defense, 78% takedown defense rate for Tyler Santos so far in the UFC, which is going to make it tough for Erin Blanchfield to potentially take her down. I don't think it's going to be that much of a problem because I think Blanchfield's that good wrestling-wise. I think her grappling is that good to the point where she is able to get Tyler Santos down and she is able to go out there and submit her. Well, I don't know about submission, but I think she's able to go in there and just dominate her in the ground. Santos' best chance to outstrike Erin Blanchfield, even though, again, it's always the game that you play with a fighter like Erin Blanchfield. the wrestling, the threat of the wrestling is always going to be there. If Tyler Santos does try to take her down or does try to outstrike her, well, again, the threat's always going to be there. So it's going to make Erin Blanchfield's striking game a lot better. The fact that she can take down Tyler Santos at all times, and Tyler Santos will always be worrying about the grappling game of Erin Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield's able to win. I think she is able to find the takedown at -150. Honestly, like the odds, I think Erin Blanchfield is probably the next champion in this weight class. I think she probably will beat the winner of Valentina Shevchenko and Oleksiejczuk, that fight card that's happening in about 3 weeks' time. I think Blanchfield's the future. I think she's the best fighter in this weight class right now. I think she's currently not the uncrowned champion, but just the champion that's waiting to be crowned. I think her, Tatiana Suarez at 115, and Juliana Pena at 135 pounds, the next 3 champions of this weight class. I just think Pena beats Raquel Pennington, I'll be honest with you. I'm not the biggest fan of her just character, I guess, but I think Juliana Pena is probably the next champion in that weight class. But we'll get to that fight when it's eventually booked, maybe November. I don't know. There's been nothing out of the 135-pound division since Amanda Nunes has retired. Our next fight is back in the bantamweight division. We have got a -700 favorite in Rinya Nakamura taking on Fernie Garcia. This is expected. Nakamura fighting out of Saitama, Japan. Amazing wrestler, but the power game and the striking has really developed over his career, winning twice on road to UFC, both by finishing the first round. The first one being a key lock finish by submission in the first round, then a knockout win in the second one, then beating a fighter who we talked about earlier in Toshiomi Kazama by first round knockout with a straight left in 30 seconds. He now gets Fernie Garcia. Garcia is a guy who is 10-3 professionally. He's 0-2 in the UFC. Won a fight in the Contender Series over Josh Weems. He knocks out Weems in the first round. Weems obviously got a shot in the UFC as well. He got one fight against Christian Rodriguez. He lost and they cut him. He beats Weems, loses to Jerry Newsom by unanimous decision, and then drops one to Brady Hesian after that. Fernie Garcia just hasn't been great in the UFC, and stylistically, this is just a complete mismatch. It's, again, Nakamura is a guy that they are setting up for like Tatsuro Taira levels, I think, of hype. And the UFC, they give these guys like lower level opponents just because they want to boost their record and they just want to get them experience. It's not because, again, they don't think they can be the better fighters, it's just that they want Nakamura to be a Japanese star that they have under their wings, like, Tatsuro Taira, and that's why they gave Taira. That's why they keep giving Taira like lower level guys, because they think they think he can easily beat them, get finishes, get some hype, and eventually, like Sean O'Malley, book him against a tough fighter. Like, again, O'Malley, he lost to Chito Vera, but then they gave him the Munoz fight. He beats Munoz, or he's got the no contest against Munoz. Right? I know I'm out of order here, or just not like telling every single step of the Sean O'Malley story, but then he beats Piotr Jan. He waits for the title shot, knocks out Aljamain Sterling, and now he's the world champion. And they will likely book around him so he doesn't have to fight Merab Dvalishvili next. And instead, he has to fight Chito Vera. He'll probably beat Chito Vera. And then you wait for Merab, hope maybe Sandhagen beats Merab, and then hope that Sandhagen loses to O'Malley, and then hoping by then Aljo's lost, or if Aljo gets back to the belt, then O'Malley can knock out Aljo again, right? Even though I think Aljo deserves a second shot at the belt, but we'll see. But again, the UFC gives these guys, lower level guys because they know they can beat them. And again, there's no difference in this fight. Nakamura is taking on a guy who's 0-2 in the UFC. Again, that's telling. The guys they give him, and what also is telling is that Nakamura is fighting on a main card, right? He's not like a guy like, they have other Asian fighters on this card. They've got Kinoshita. They've got, Sungwoo Choi, who I know is lost. But they've got other, Asian fighters in this card, and look at the placement on the card for Nakamura. Nakamura wins this fight. It's not competitive. He goes out there and he absolutely mops the floor with Fernie Garcia. There's a reason 98% of voters on Tapology are picking him. There's a reason he's a -700 favorite. Give me Rinya Nakamura to win this fight. He'll get it done by first round knockout. On now to the featherweight division. We have got the return of Giga Chikadze, who seriously just went missing. Well, not actually went missing, but just he disappeared after the Calvin Kattar fight, where he got absolutely obliterated to start off 2021. Yeah, 2021 in January. It's been a while for Giga Chikadze since he has made an appearance in the UFC, but now they book him against Bruce Leroy. They give him Alex Caceres here. Alex Caceres is a guy who, again, 28 fights in the UFC. This will be his 28th fight in the promotion. 21-13 record, sure, but again, just look at the guys Alex Caceres has fought. Caceres fights all the damn time, and he's always going to be active. And again, winning streak as of late. He has won, 7 out of his last 8? Since losing to Kron Gracie in a fight where, again, he got taken down by Kron Gracie and submitted. After that, he beats Steven Peterson, beats Chase Hooper, beats Austin Springer, beats Kevin Kroon, beats Sungwoo Choi, loses to Sodi Kusa, beats Julian Rosa, and most recently just beat Daniel Pineda. Caceres is back. They're giving him a guy who now, he usually fights guys who are under him, honestly, in the weight class, because Caceres is, like, he's the gatekeeper of the top 15, right? But they gave him Yusuf to try to jump guys in the weight class, couldn't win. He has to defend his ranking twice, I guess. He wins both those, and now they give him a guy in Chikadze, who at one point was billed as a potential title challenger, but really hasn't done anything since losing to Calvin Kattar. Now, again, he beats Edson Barbosa. He gets Barbosa in a main event. It was the Ultimate Fighter finale card. He beats Barbosa. He knocks him out in the third round. All the hype is there. He is a pretty big favorite against Calvin Kattar, and Calvin Kattar goes out there and destroys him. Now, the strike count is close when you go back and look at it. It's 144 to 128 for Calvin Kattar, but damage-wise, like, look at the face of Giga Chikadze after that fight ends. It is all Calvin Kattar in that fight. He obliterates Giga Chikadze in that fight, and he dominates. Now, before that for Chikadze, again, the Barbosa one's really good. He knocks out Cub Swanson. Cub Swanson's coming off a win over Hakeem Dawodu, a fight that he did not win, but it's fine. They gave it to him. Chikadze beats Jamie Simmons, but Simmons wasn't very good. He went on a run, right? You know, Giga went on a run. He now gets Alex Caceres. Is he going to win? I think he will. I like Alex Caceres, and I always want Caceres to win. And honestly, I didn't know that Giga Chikadze is 35 years old, same age as Alex Caceres. I think the kickboxing out of Chikadze is going to win him this fight. I think, again, I don't think Chikadze is no longer looked at, and I don't no longer look at him as a fighter who can potentially fight Volkanovski, even in a weight class where they're looking for guys and they are, like, begging for guys to fight Alexander Volkanovski. I don't think Chikadze is going to be one of those guys. I just don't think he's ever going to get there in the top of the weight class. This is a guy who, again, was ready to fight everyone, anywhere, anytime when he was on his run, and then just ran into Calvin Kattar. The trash talk stopped. Everything stopped because, again, he just got dominated by Calvin Kattar in that one fight. I think he does bounce back, and I do think he beats Alex Caceres, but it's not, like, there's the hype for Giga Chikadze is 100% gone. I think he gets the job done, but I don't really, I think he goes out there and outstrikes Alex Caceres. I think Caceres, again, decent kickboxing. He does have some power, but, again, it's probably not comparable to Giga. Where Kattar got him, Kattar took him down in the first round, really switched it up on him, and then after that, made Chikadze always, worried about the takedown, because Kattar, after that first, was always shooting. Like, there was always, not even if they were, like, full-hearted takedown attempts, he was always presenting the threat of the takedown. I don't think Caceres can take Giga down, even though he does have 68% takedown accuracy rate in the UFC, but that's just really not what Caceres does. He does, but, it's been more of the striking that has won Caceres fights recently. I think Chikadze wins. I don't think it's that entertaining. I think Chikadze just does enough on the outside, outstrikes Alex Caceres, and I think Giga Chikadze picks up the victory by unanimous decision. Next up, in our co-main event, we've got the rematch of Anthony Lionheart-Smith and Ryan Spann. Anthony Smith has not won a fight since that original fight against Ryan Spann back in the Apex in, 2021, I do believe. Ryan Spann since then has picked up some momentum, and he does return to the second fight as a favorite, I believe, unlike the first one where he was an underdog. Sure, because, he's won 2 fights since that Anthony Smith original fight. Anthony Smith has not won since that original Ryan Spann fight, but, I don't know. I know Anthony Smith looked horrible in his last fight. He gets absolutely dominated and looked like he didn't want to be there in the Johnny Walker fight in North Carolina. There was nothing going really for Anthony Smith in that fight. He just wasn't there. He didn't do much. And Johnny Walker wins the fight, and Johnny Walker, honestly, has put himself probably 1 fight away from a championship, which is crazy. But really, when you look at this fight, I know Anthony Smith since that original Spann fight, lost twice. Lost to Uncle Live, where he just gets beat up, and then lose to Johnny Walker. And for Spann after that, again, he went in there, guillotined Ion Cutelaba in the first round of the fight, where he got dropped, but came back because Ion Cutelaba, he got wobbled, but Ion Cutelaba's got low fight IQ, so Spann ended up winning. Then he knocks out Dominic Reyes, but I feel like everyone can knock out Dominic Reyes, and I wanted to see Dominic Reyes, honestly, versus Chris Daukaus, because that's a fight Dominic Reyes could probably win. But they cut Daukaus, and I don't know if Reyes sticks around anymore. The guy's only 33, though, so they'll probably give him another shot. Give me him and Chris Weidman, I don't know, again. But for Spann, right, he beats Reyes, booked against Nikita Kirillov, originally in a main event, fight falls through, Kirillov comes back, beats him at a catchweight at 215, now he gets Anthony Smith. My question is, what's changed since the original Anthony Smith-Ryan Spann fight? Smith has taken a little bit more damage, and he looked like he didn't want to be there against Johnny Walker, but I think it's pretty evident. The wrestling advantage for Anthony Smith and the grappling advantage is still going to be there. I don't think, that's gone away. I think a lot of people are taking Ryan Spann by knockout, but when Anthony Smith loses, he gets his legs chopped out. That's what happened in the Magomed fight, right? That's what Uncle Live kind of did to him. But he damaged him on the feet as well. But he kicked out his legs. That's what happened when he lost to Alexander Rakic, right? Glover Teixeira just kind of broke him. But for Ryan Spann, his game plan is just trying to go out there and try to, punch you out and put you out and, and knock you out. Anthony Smith doesn't really get knocked out. I know he has fought a bunch, but since when's the last time Anthony Smith's been knocked out standing? Thiago Santos back in 2018. It's been a really long time, right? So I think Lionheart's actually going to win this fight because I don't think anything has changed since the original Lionheart and Ryan Spann fight. I think it's the same exact thing. I think Anthony Smith is the better grappler. I think he's going to get him down. And I think you're going to look at this fight and it's going to be like, why was this fight booked again? Because the UFC's booking this fight because they want Ryan Spann to get the win back and they're looking to send Anthony Smith out of the UFC. That's what they're looking to do. They're looking to put Anthony Smith full-time on ESPN after this. I don't think it's going to happen. I think, again, Anthony Smith goes in there. I think he goes in there and takes him down. I think Anthony Smith finds the back and maybe kind of the same exact thing. Anthony Smith wins this fight by submission. That is where I think Anthony Smith is way better than Ryan Spann in this fight. If this fight stays on the feet, yes, Ryan Spann will win. Will Ryan Spann eventually knock him out? Probably. But I'm saying, Ryan Spann doesn't have that one-hit knockout power. Oh, well, he does. But against a guy like Anthony Smith, I don't think he's able to just get Anthony Smith with one shot. I think it's going to take a while, right? So I think Smith stays in the fight, clinches up with them, gets him down on the ground. I think Anthony Smith picks up his 37th professional win. I think he goes up there and submits Ryan Spann by taking him down, eventually getting the back. Anthony Lionheart Smith wins in the co-main event. In the rematch of the fight, again, you did not know you wanted it until you got it, but you still probably don't want it. Anthony Smith wins the fight by first-round submission. He gets back in the win column and maybe can retire? I don't know. Main event spot. Max Holloway takes on Chan Sung Jung, the Korean Zombie. Why? This fight shouldn't be happening. Max Holloway's at minus 850. The Korean Zombie coming back at you at plus 520. Okay, so everything coming into this fight has shown that both these guys wanted the fight. Max Holloway wants the fight because it's a legacy fight, and he can have the name under, the name Korean Zombie under his list of accomplishments and under the list of guys that he's beat over his career. I understand that. Chan Sung Jung wants the fight because it's probably his last fight, and he just wants to go out with a fight against Max Holloway, which is respectable. But man, it is a very tough fight for the Korean Zombie. What is he going to do in this fight? Max Holloway has beat everyone not named Alexander Volkanovski in this weight class. Any other up-and-coming challenger, he has beat Arnold Allen. He stopped the hype of Arnold Allen in that fight in Kansas City. He dominated Yair Rodriguez. He dominated Calvin Kattar. He's beat Frankie Edgar, which, whatever. But he beat Brian Ortega as well. He's beaten every other 145-pounder that they have. And this just feels like just bullying against Chan Sung Jung. I love the Zombie. Korean Zombie has been, I've grown up watching the Korean Zombie, right? But man, he was kind of gifted the title shot against Volkanovski because seriously, there's just nobody left. They needed to fight for Jacksonville, and they're like, all right, well, I guess the Zombie's here, so they'll do it. And Zombie was kind of talking trash before the first Volk fight, which didn't really make sense, but he was. Even though he lost to Brian Ortega and got dominated by Brian Ortega, but came back, won a fight against Danny Ige, uses wrestling, okay, great. Goes in there, just gets obliterated by Alexander Volkanovski. Volk's able to do that. Obviously, Volk's better than Max Holloway, sure. He's beat him 3 times. But still, Max Holloway is, if he's not 1A, but he's 1B in the weight class. He can still beat, I think, everyone else. I think he would dominate Ilia Topuria if they gave him Ilia Topuria, and I think that was the problem with, Aljo going up after he lost to Sean. It's like, all right, well, you're not going to get an immediate title shot anymore at 145. You're not. And Aljo said himself, if Sean O'Malley's able to do that to him, what the hell's Volk going to do to him? The problem is, you move up, the fight's probably Max Holloway to get you to the title. He's not going to beat Max Holloway, I don't think. So Aljo should probably just stay at 35 for now. Hope he can get the belt back against Sean and then go up to 145 and fight, right? Unless he can go up to 145 and not fight Max Holloway, which is possible, but you probably have to time that right. You have to wait till Max gets booked again. You probably have to then fight Yair or Allen, or if he's lucky, they give him Josh Emmett, because that's a fight he can probably win. I think he probably beat Arnold Allen. I think Yair's a tougher fight, but whatever. Depends what Aljo we get, honestly, after that loss to Sean. Again, we've seen him knocked out before. He came back fine, I don't know, but Aljo's 34 now, so who knows? But again, that was the problem with Aljo going up. Max Holloway is just so much better than all these guys. He's the gatekeeper for the championship at this point. And it's getting to the point where the UFC, instead of, having guys who they want to fight for the championship fight Max Holloway, they just skip him. Or they just don't care what happened in the fight. Because Holloway beats Rodriguez, but they booked Rodriguez against Josh Emmett anyways. He beats Arnold Allen, Max Holloway does, but Allen will likely just get Movsar Evloev next in a fight where the winner probably fights for the championship, right? Max Holloway just levels above these guys, but he can never get the title shot unless Volk loses the belt, because you can't theoretically book Max Holloway for the 4th time against Alexander Volkanovski. It does not make sense. It does not make sense. Like Robert Whittaker got close to getting a third fight, but no one else has gotten 3 fights against the champion other than Max Holloway. I don't see him getting a fourth, and I see him just waiting until Volkanovski loses the belt. But this seems like a safe fight for Holloway that he's not going to lose, and it's a fight that just honestly keeps his spot in line for the championship. And if Volkanovski loses, like if Volkanovski loses to Topuria, Volk wants some time off, which probably wouldn't, but say he does, boom, Max jumps right in and fights Topuria for the belt. I'm not saying Ilia Topuria is going to beat Alexander Volkanovski. I don't think he's going to get close. But that's what kind of feels like Max Holloway's waiting around for. The guy's one of the greatest fighters of all time. He's one of the greatest featherweights of all time. He's only 31 years old. He's 20-7 in the UFC. Like, this fight, again, will not be close. Max Holloway is so much quicker than the Korean Zombie. Korean Zombie does still have some power, but Max Holloway, has seen power before, and he doesn't get knocked out, really. He just stands there and eats shots, and Max Holloway doesn't usually win by knockout. But this is going to be the fight where he does. 4th round knockout for Max Holloway. It's going to take longer than what Alexander Volkanovski was able to do, but I think he still goes out there and still wins the fight. I think Zombie will flash some, moments, I guess. Like, he will have some moments in this fight, I think, because it will likely be his last fight, unless, I guess, he does win, then maybe he does put himself back in title contention, because seriously it would, because that's how big of a fight this is. If he beats Max Holloway as a plus 600 underdog, he won't beat Max Holloway, but that's kind of what's on the line. I think if Zombie is able to somehow go in there and somehow shock everybody, he's not going to do so. Max Holloway is going to beat him, and he's going to dominate him. It's going to take him a little bit longer than what Alexander Volkanovski was able to do, but 4th round TKO, I think, is the stoppage for Max Holloway in this fight. He's just all around so much better than the Korean Zombie at this point. The one thing is maybe power-wise, Zombie still got him, because Max has never been a power guy. He's always been a volume guy who's going to go out there. He is going to go out there and he's going to overwhelm you with his strikes. But again, I don't think the Korean Zombie stands a chance because Max Holloway is so much quicker. I think he's got way more skills and he's got so many more tools than the Korean Zombie. And I think Max blessed Holloway. It's back in the win column or stays in the win column, picks up another win in a fight that honestly, again, it did not need to happen, but he's going to do it. He's going to go out there and win. Max Holloway wins and he absolutely obliterates Chan Sung Jung the victory. It might happen sooner, but I'm going to say 4th round TKO for Max Holloway just a little bit later than what Alexander the Great Volkanovski was able to do to Chan Sung Jung in Jacksonville just last year. So folks, that'll do it for our UFC Singapore predictions, with the main event being Max Holloway and the Korean Zombie. We'll be back tomorrow for the PFL. You've got in the main event Clay Collard taking on Shane Burgos in a huge fight over there. You got Bruno Miranda taking on Olivier Aben-Mercier. You've got Magomed Karamov no longer fighting Magomed Umlatov. Instead, it will be Magomed Karamov versus Solomon Renfro in the 170-pound weight class. And you got the reigning champion in Saad Boussi in a rematch of his fight in the semifinals last year against Carlos Leal. So that's coming at you tomorrow. And the next week's UFC card will be it's the Paris one. It's going to be Sidogan and Sergey Spivak in the main event, so stay tuned for that one next week. Folks, thank you all for watching. Make sure that subscribe button down below for more, and Mamba